At 58, life had settled into a comfortable rhythm for me. My days were filled with the simple pleasures of home life and long, leisurely walks with my husband, Tom, who had recently retired. Our son, Danny, had grown into a man of 30, married to Clara, a woman with whom my relationship could best be described as strained. Despite the friction, I held out hope that time would mend whatever rift lay between us. It was a typical Thursday afternoon when the phone rang, slicing through the quiet hum of our home. Tom was out in the yard, probably fussing over his tomato plants, and I was knee-deep in a book, enjoying the kind of peace you only get when you've retired to the outskirts of the city. Our life was simple, the way we liked it. "Hello?" I answered, expecting it to be Tom, maybe needing a hand with something outside. "Hey, Mom, it's Danny." His voice, always a bit hurried, sounded even more so today. "Danny, what's up? Is everything okay?" I sat up, my book forgotten. Calls in the middle of the day were rare. Danny's job kept him busy, and Clara, his wife, even busier with her own things. Yeah, everything's fine. Listen, I was wondering. Clara and I are getting our place renovated, and it's turning into a bigger mess than we thought. Can we crash with you and Dad for a bit? There was a hopeful lilt in his voice, but it was rushed, almost as if he was expecting a no. I paused, considering. Our small house wasn't exactly guest-ready, especially not for an indefinite stay. But this was Danny, our son, and his need echoed in me, stirring that maternal instinct that never quite fades, no matter how old they get. Well, I don't see why not. Let me just chat with your dad, but I'm sure it'll be fine. How long are we talking about here? Thanks, Mom. You're a lifesaver. Just a couple of weeks, tops. I owe you one. The relief in his voice was palpable. All right, just remember, it's cozy here. You two will need to help out around the house, okay? Of course, Mom. Thanks again. We'll bring over our stuff this weekend. Hanging up, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. It had been a while since we'd had the house full. Danny moving out had left a quiet that Jack and I had grown accustomed to, filling it with walks, gardening, and the kind of togetherness that comes with having weathered many of life's storms side by side. Tom, I called out, stepping onto the porch. Danny and Clara are going to stay with us for a bit. Tom looked up from his tomatoes, wiping his brow. Oh? What's the occasion? Their apartment's a war zone, renovations gone wild. They need a place to crash. He chuckled, a deep, warm sound. Well, it'll be nice to have some extra hands around. When are they coming? This weekend. Better get the spare room ready then. And maybe stock up on coffee, you know how Danny is in the mornings. I laughed, the sound mingling with the rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze. I'll add it to the list. The weekend came faster than expected. Danny and Clara arrived with their belongings, a whirlwind of bags and boxes that seemed to spill into every corner of our once-ordered home. Clara, always a bit on the edge, seemed even more so, her eyes darting around as if assessing whether our humble abode was up to her standards. Thanks for letting us stay. We'll try not to be in the way, Danny said, dropping a heavy suitcase with a thud. It's no trouble, dear. You know you're always welcome here, I replied, shooting a glance at Clara, who offered a tight smile in return. Life at our house had taken a turn towards the chaotic since Danny and Clara moved in. I was doing my best, keeping the place tidy and cooking meals that could feed an army, or at least that's how it felt with 2 extra mouths to feed. Clara, on the other hand, seemed to think she was on some extended vacation, contributing nothing to the household chores. Despite only working half-days, her afternoons were spent either glued to her phone or watching TV. One day, after tripping over a pair of Clara's shoes left in the middle of the living room for what felt like the 100th time, I decided enough was enough. I found her lounging on the couch, absorbed in her phone as usual. Clara, do you think you could start picking up after yourself? Maybe even help out around the house a bit? I asked, trying to keep my voice even, though inside I was boiling. She looked up at me, her expression one of disbelief, as if I'd asked her to climb Everest in flip-flops. I'm a guest here, Linda. I shouldn't have to do chores in my husband's parents' house. That's just not how it works. I stared at her, dumbfounded by her audacity. Well, in this house, we all contribute. It's not a hotel. The conversation went nowhere. Clara simply shrugged and went back to her phone, leaving me fuming. That night, I made a decision. I cooked dinner, just for Tom and me, a silent protest against Clara's laziness. When Danny came home and saw only 2 places set at the table, his confusion quickly turned to indignation. What's this about, Mom? Why aren't there plates for me and Clara? I took a deep breath, bracing myself for the confrontation. Your wife seems to think she's staying at a 5-star hotel where the service is included. This is a family home, Danny. We all do our part. Danny's face turned red, a mix of embarrassment and anger. That's not fair, Mom. We're guests. I shook my head, resolute. No, son. You're family, and in this family, we help each other out. You can either pitch in or find a hotel. The words hung heavy in the air. Danny stormed off to talk to Clara, and I could hear the muffled sounds of their discussion. Eventually, they both appeared in the kitchen, Clara with a look that could curdle milk. Fine, Danny said, his voice tight. We'll help out around the house. Clara didn't say a word, just nodded stiffly, her arms crossed over her chest as if she'd been asked to donate a kidney rather than wash a few dishes. After weeks of endless cleaning, cooking, and refereeing arguments between Danny and Clara, I hit my breaking point. Tom, I said one evening, we need a break. How about we book that hotel by the ocean you've always talked about? Tom, looking as worn out as I felt, didn't hesitate. Let's do it. We deserve some peace. Breaking the news to Danny and Clara didn't go as smoothly as booking the hotel had. You're going on a vacation? Danny asked, disbelief coloring his tone. Why? You're always at home. I bristled at his response, the insinuation that my days were leisurely enough as it was. Even people who stay at home need a break, Danny. Especially with the extra workload we've had. Danny's next words floored me. Instead of wasting money on a holiday, you could help us out more. We need new furniture for the apartment. I stared at him, speechless. This was the boy I'd raised, who I'd poured my heart and soul into. I can't believe you're saying this. Your father and I are going, and that's final. Our trip was a balm for our weary souls. The ocean's roar, the sunsets, long walks on the beach, all of it reminded Tom and me of the world beyond our doorstep, beyond the daily grind. Returning home, however, was like stepping into a disaster zone. Pizza boxes towered like skyscrapers on the kitchen counter, empty bottles clinked together on the floor, and a general layer of dust and disarray covered everything. It looked like a tornado had swept through, deciding to make our living room its final resting place. Danny, Clara, I called out, my voice echoing through the chaos. They emerged, looking sheepish and a bit caught off guard by our early return. Why didn't you clean up? You knew we were coming back today, I asked, struggling to keep my voice level. Clara shrugged, her indifference like a slap in the face. No one pays me to clean up around here. Tom and I exchanged glances, both of us teetering on the edge of losing our cool. This is not a hotel, and you're not guests. You're family, and this is your home as much as it is ours, Tom said, his voice firm yet controlled. Danny seemed to shrink a bit, perhaps realizing the extent of their neglect. Sorry, Mom, Dad. We'll clean it up now. But the damage was done, the disregard for our home too stark to ignore. As they scrambled to tidy up, Tom and I retreated to our room, the joy from our trip fading fast. The realization that our return to peace was temporary weighed heavily on us. Our home, our sanctuary, had been treated like a mere crash pad, and the respect we expected from our own family felt miles away. As December rolled around, the chill wasn't just in the air, it had settled right into our home, thick and palpable. Christmas,